the Glock Model 28 and 380. Let's check it out. Glock introduced their Model 28 in 1997, but it remained in Europe. One of the problems is because of importation, the Gun Control Act made this a Saturday night special because of its size. Funny because it's the exact same size as your Model 26 in 9mm, but they're making these in the US. Now they're making the Model 28 in the US thanks to Talo Distribution, and these are an exclusive through Lipseys. They also make the Model 25, which is about the same size as your Model 19. So we're going to take a good look at the Model 28, why you would want this over a Model 26, or for that matter, some of the other 380 ACP offerings. Yes, it is a Glock. And guys, there's a lot of fans out there that are going to love this. But how does it compete with other 380s that are on the market? I want to give a big thank you to Talo and to Lipseys for sending the Model 28 for this review. Again, this is an exclusive at Lipseys. And that's one of the great things about Talo, Lipseys, and Davidson's, is they do work with gun companies to get really cool exclusives. This is definitely so light with recoil. With the Model 26, honestly, the way this recoil system's set up, it's really easy to shoot. But you can tell a major difference with the 380. I mean, somebody that really has less shooting experience or just wants less recoil, this would be a great little pistol. Well guys, we've been waiting a long time for the 380 ACP, and again, it's been around since 1997. It's just great to see it here in the US. We're going to talk about some reasons why you'd want a Glock Model 28 and some of the reasons why you wouldn't. But let's go ahead and make sure the gun is unloaded. We're going to drop our 10-round magazine. You'll notice the way that they've made the magazine. 380 ACP is a little shorter than 9mm, and so this helps you really to identify the 9mm versus a 380. Check the chamber, and it is empty. And also the 26, empty. But here you can see the size is the same. Now this is a Gen 5. One of the things about the Model 28 is it will only be available in the Gen 3 series. And that means you're going to have your finger grooves. You're going to have a little more extension here at the grip. And that was one of the things they did with the Gen 5. They really trimmed this down, and then you can put extra grip options if you want. And the Gen 3 has been extremely popular. A lot of people really prefer the Gen 3. They like the finger grooves. They like the fullness of the grip. So there are some advantages to Gen 3. Talo ordered 10,000 units of the Glock 28. They wanted to see how it would go. Actually, their first shipment sold out within minutes. And so there has been a lot of people that have been buying the Model 28. Some just because it's a Glock and it's an addition that we haven't been able to get. Some people because of the less recoil, and that is really a big plus for this handgun. Now, I carried the Model 26 for over 10 years. Carried the Gen 3 first for a number of years, and then when Gen 5 came out, I started carrying it. In fact, my son, that is his concealed carry, is a Gen 3 Model 26. They are excellent to carry. One of the big things about a 26, or for that matter, this 28, is that it gives you more of a full grip on the handgun as far as thickness. And so it shoots like a full-size gun, especially if you put one of the base pads that extend the grip, and you're getting 2 additional rounds. And that is a huge plus. And I'll tell you what, it's really funny. This is actually a Glock Model 26 magazine, but it fits in the Model 28. And so you're getting the same size magazine. The big thing is that it has been modified to be able to make it smaller again. But what this does is gives you a full grip on the handgun. Still makes a small gun, but it's thicker. But because of that, you have a better grip on it than some of the Micro 9s or even a lot of the Micro 380s. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But you get 2 magazines with the gun, and it has more of that matte type finish on it. And of course, this is a black nitride finish. They went away from Tenefer a few years ago. But again, the magazines are actually the same size factor. So with the 26, honestly, especially with the extension on your pinky, this shoots like a full-size gun. Honestly, between the Model 19 and the 26, there's not a lot of difference. And part of that had to do with the recoil system they installed in the Model 26. In fact, when I first bought the Gen 3 26, went to the range, and I thought this thing is going to jump in my hand. It was pleasant to shoot, and it really surprised me. So you're getting a smaller gun, and even without the pinky extension, this is not a bad handgun to shoot. When it comes to the 28, the recoil of the 380 makes this mild, and so it is a real pleasure to shoot. Now, honestly, I really want a little more oomph for my self-defense round, and for the 9mm is what I would prefer. But for those who may be recoil sensitive and yet want that full-size grip, this is going to make a good candidate. Are there other guns that have come out since then that may be better? Possibly. But it's really funny that 380 ACP and double stack magazines have really made a big comeback. Now obviously Glock has offered a 380 ACP for a number of years, and this is the Model 42. It's a 6-round capacity, single stack. This one actually has an extension that makes it 7 rounds. And then check the chamber and the gun's empty. This is a great little gun. I love the Model 42. But it's very limited in round capacity. When you go with the 10 rounds plus 1, just gives you more rounds. Another thing is the thinness of the grip. Now that makes the 42 easier to conceal. But honestly, like I've stated, I've carried the Glock 26 for 10 years. And it was very carryable. But the one plus for this thicker grip is it fills your hand a little more. So when you're firing it, you're going to have a little more control over it. For me, I don't have any problems with the 42, but those who have little shooting experience, had a friend of mine whose wife had a 42 and she just didn't like it. It was too thin, which made it difficult for her to manipulate. She went to the Smith & Wesson EZ and 380 and she loves it. There's a lot of variations out there, and this just gives us another choice. But you do up your round capacity to 10 from 6, or with 7, and then you can go with 12 rounds. Now I recently did top 5 double stack magazine handguns, and honestly I forgot about the 28. While there have been a number of reviews out there, I just slipped my mind. Now they also make the Model 25, which is in the Glock 19 size, and you're going to have a higher round capacity of 15, but Glock is also making a 12+1 magazine, and they're making a 17+1 for your Glock 28. So that's going to give you a lot more round capacity even with the smaller size. And one of the big benefits with the Glock 26 is that it will take your 15, your 17, and your 33 round mag, and so it gives it a lot of mag capacity even for a small size. Now for the Model 28, you're going to get extended magazine options. Now this has a 3.43 inch barrel, and you'll notice there is a cut right here. Typically on your Glocks, the barrel fits right up to the slide, and that has a lot to do with the way that you have your locking action. And so with this cut at the front, this actually is a blowback design. Once you break it down, really the only difference is this cut right here. So that allows for the slide just under recoil to be able to push back and forward, and so it makes it just a little bit different. But honestly, for most blowback pistols, they can be a little harsh with recoil, and I didn't feel that with the Model 28. When you take a PPK with a fixed barrel, it has some recoil to it, even in 380 ACP. But now Beretta has come out with their Cheetah 80X. That is an excellent pistol, a little bit larger than your Glock Model 28. Then we have the Ruger Security 380, and that's probably one of the largest out of the bunch, but a great shooting handgun, and you're getting 15+1. And then the Bersa Thunder Plus. That is a 15+1 magazine, and it has more of the PPK design. In fact, it was one of the first double stack 380 ACPs that were still on the market when it came out. Then we have the SIG P365 380. This is a very thin handgun, and you can see that, you know, there's a considerable difference with the Glock. Your grip's a lot thinner. You have 10+1, and then you have 10+1 with the Model 28. I'm a big fan of the P365, whether it's the 9mm or the 380. I mean, they're just great shooters, but they do have a little bit more muzzle flip, and it's a smaller grip. And that's really the reason, I think, for a little bit of the recoil that you're going to feel. But honestly, in 380 ACP, it is super sweet to shoot. But with the Glock 28, you do have that thicker grip. And so really this just gives you some extra options. And that's one of the big things about it. You know, if you're carrying something like this, P365, it's small. You're just going to have a little less grip, but it's easier to carry. Another plus for a lot of the new 380 offerings is they can be optics ready, just like this SIG. With the Gen 3, you're not going to have any optics options. So you're pretty much stuck with your standard Glock sights, which there is a plethora of different Glock sights that you can install on here. It'll take any that fit your Glock 26. But one of my favorite 380 ACP double stacks is the Ruger LCP Max. 10+1, you can get a 12+1 magazine. It is tiny. I mean, it is really small, really thin. So you're going to have a little more recoil with this. You're not going to have as much grip. This is my deep carry. If I'm going somewhere where I really need to have a very discreet look, this is in a sticky holster inside my belt. I mean, it is a great little gun to carry. I love shooting it. But it is a very small grip, and for some, that's a little bit intimidating, and it does give you a little extra recoil that you're not going to get out of your Glock Model 28. Am I going to start carrying the Model 28 over the Ruger LCP Max? No. I really like this. I love it because it's tiny. But this does give us another option if you prefer that little bit larger grip. You know, one thing that I've noticed, and for years I've been shooting all kind of different guns, and I have certain experiences, I have a certain hand size, I have different preferences, and we all do. And so there's always room for a different model gun to bring to the table something that may suit you and not suit others. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of times when I do gun reviews, I don't get into too much preferences. I like to tell you what's out there, but guys, honestly, everyone is different. In fact, all the major gun tubers that are out there that shoot a lot of rounds, we all have different preferences. And we have a lot of experience. So for me, I have shot Glocks for so long and put so many rounds through them that the Glock feels just at home in my hand. Doesn't mean that I don't carry other guns, but this is definitely, you know, one that would be very light, great in an ankle holster, but obviously if you're recoil sensitive, I mean, this does make a good option. And while a lot of guys will say, well, I would just rather have the Model 26. It's in 9mm, it gives me more power. Man, I'm all about it. I understand it. But there are some out there that this is just going to have a little more recoil than they're comfortable with. And this is going to be a great option, mainly because the recoil is so light. And guys, I'm telling you, you put a finger extension on this, and you're going to love shooting it. Or even if you don't. One of the things I've found is that without the pinky extension, I don't necessarily shoot it any better or any worse. What the pinky extension does, besides giving me 2 extra rounds, is that it just gives me a little more confidence in my grip. Because really the pinky does not do that much to the grip. And guys, even for seasoned shooters, while I do shoot the Glock 26 extremely well, with 380 ACP, I'm going to be able to get better follow-up shots. The soft recoil, it's really easy to manage, and I'm just going to be able to get shots on target quicker. So to me, if I'm a huge fan of the Model 26, but I want something that I can really get a lot of shots on target, I mean, this does still make a great option. Now we have the standard trigger safety right here, and you've got to get a full pad to depress the trigger safety. And we have a standard Glock trigger, and this is a Gen 3 trigger. So we have it, we bring it, a little take up right to here, we hit a wall, a little bit of resistance, and then we have the break. It's not a sharp break, it's a Glock trigger. Reset is really quick. And let's check out trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge. 5 pounds, 14.9 ounces. This thing was sliding all over that trigger. 5 pounds, 10 ounces. Glock typically says that it's about 5.5 pounds. And we check the weight on the Model 28. 20.79 ounces. Here we have 380 ACP or 9mm Kirched or short, which they call it in Europe. And then we have the 9mm Parabellum. The bullet diameter is the same. They're both 9mm. But the case length is definitely different and the bullet weight typically is different. You're starting out with about a 115 grain bullet compared to a 95 grain bullet on the 380. And you have less powder capacity, so it does give you a much softer shooting, lower velocity, lighter bullet. With good self-defense rounds though, it makes a great self-defense option. However, it is considered the minimal for effective self-defense. It's going at 960 feet per second, whereas the 9mm is going 1200 feet per second. So you're going to have considerable more energy, velocity, and a larger bullet with the 9mm. You're just going to get less recoil with the 380. And that's really the big draw. Big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA. #1 supplier of ammunition in the country. And also our Lula loaders, which is about the same size as this magazine. But these are really cool little magazines. Glock Model 28 in 380 ACP. You know guys, honestly, I just did a review of some of the top double stack 380 ACP pistols. I'd forgotten about the Model 28. I just haven't seen much about it. So when Talo got in touch with me, I was excited because I really wanted to, try one of these out. I think 380 is a great option. It's making a strong comeback. Mild recoil, and yet it uses the same pretty much configuration as your Glock 26. But when we've shot them side by side, there is no comparison. This is super easy to shoot. 10-round magazine, which has been adjusted, and we've taken a look at that. But guys, if you're used to shooting Glock, this is going to be a real easy transition. So, tell you, just super mild. And one thing I'll say right up front, you noticed with the ejection pattern, it's pretty much just popping back in between my arms as I'm shooting. Very low recoil, so that those rounds and the spent brass is not really coming back that far. But again, super mild. Now I would like a little finger rest on here, mainly because my pinky hangs off, but it doesn't really change my confidence in shooting. It's just a really solid little performer. And we've shot quite a few rounds through it, no malfunctions. It's got the original Glock sights, which, not all that great, but you can add them, and Glock has a bazillion different types to put on here. But I was really excited when Talo got in touch with me about this because I really, again, it just slipped my mind. And to me, this is such a great option. Yeah, work on that ejection pattern a little bit, but otherwise, this is a little sweet shooting little handgun. What do you think?
I like it. It's not as jumpy as I was expecting. Sometimes little guns in my hands are kind of jumpy, but I actually really like this. It was very comfortable to shoot. A nice step up from 22, but not quite 9mm.
Right. Sweet little gun. And for disassembly, drop your magazine, check the chamber, gun's empty. Pull your trigger, pull back on your slide just a little bit, and then pull down on each of your takedown tabs, and the slide comes off. Recoil spring is really efficient. With this double recoil spring, this makes a huge difference with recoil. And then we have our barrel. Again, we have that flat cutoff right here. And so this makes it just a little different. Model 28 barrel up top, and here we have the Glock 26 barrel. Just a little bit of difference up here at the front, but the rest of the barrel, except there's an extra step right here that's not on the 28. Even here with the chamber, pretty much the same. Here they have the 26 Gen 5, this is the Gen 3, but even looking here, I mean, there is very little difference. And even the slide configuration, there's just differences between the Gen 5 and Gen 3, but not in caliber. One thing you'll notice is the Model 26 barrel does not fit. It's a little bit thicker. Here, Gen 3 barrel fits right in. Bring in our recoil spring and guide rod. Bring it back over the frame. Insert our magazine, test for function. It's a Glock. Now the MSRP is $599 on the Model 28, which is the same as it is with the other Glock models. And to find one of these, your FFL can order it directly from Lipseys, and your price may vary. And again, there's a ton of different exclusives, whether it's Glock, Colt, Ruger, I mean there's a bunch. And they really go to seek out. In fact, they did one of the Gen 1 Model 17s with the original Tupperware box. We did a review on that. And that was pretty cool that Lipseys worked to bring that back, because most of the Gen 1 Glocks are pretty worn out. So it was a really cool addition, and they do things like that, and I think it's really cool that we have an option of not just what the manufacturers order, but what Talo, Lipseys, Davidsons. They get these different exclusives, and it gives you a chance to have some limited editions. Again, there were 10,000 of these made, and when they're gone, they're gone. Now, because there have been so many 380 double stack pistols that have been introduced over just the past few years, this is definitely something that a lot of people are looking for a double stack 380, whether it's the Glock or a number of others. You know, that's just going to be your choice. I mean, there are some advantages, there are some disadvantages, but that goes all the way across the board with all the different 380s. But the pros and cons, I mean, it's a thick handgun, and yet it's a subcompact size that you can carry for concealed carry. The big plus for this handgun is the light recoil. And that overall, and two, if you love Glocks and you've been wanting a Model 28, or the Model 25, which is also available from Lipseys, is the Model 19 size. This is a great addition to your collection. Guys, the Glock Model 28 gives you a lot less recoil than your Model 26, and yet pretty much the same size factor. But man, this is such a sweet shooting handgun. And really, putting on a pinky extension makes this feel like a full-size gun. And it's one of the things about 380 lately, again, is that we're seeing a lot of double-stack 380s that are coming to the market. We're just glad that Glock finally caught up. And a big thank you again to Talo for working with Glock to bring the Model 28 to the U.S. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. On the 28, baby. 380 ACP. Now this has the Wilson Combat. Let me see if I can just change that real quick. The Beretta. This is the Beretta. Beretta's really made a change. And it's not a blowback. It has the same kind of system of I'm doing a Joe Biden moment. I got 2 words to say to this. All right, we're gonna drop in our barrel. Are we? All right, let's return our barrel. Why is that barrel not going in? Oh, that's because that's the wrong barrel. It's the wrong barrel, you doof. Get a magazine extension. God bless America. Long live the...